Hey everybody, it's Jeremy, and welcome to another episode of Sipping with Jeremy. And today we're going to go to the land down under and talk about Starward Distillery out of Melbourne, Australia. So Starward was founded by David Vittel, and his mindset is to keep everything as local as possible. So at his distillery, they only use ingredients that they can source from within a day's drive from, and he works with local wineries and gets their barrels to age his whiskey in. A unique thing they do with these wine barrels is instead of giving it a full char like you would for most whiskey barrels, they actually just give it a light steam or a light char to kind of enhance the flavors of the wine that was aged in those barrels to kind of help give the whiskey extra flavor. Melbourne is known to have 4 seasons in one day, so these whiskeys are able to extract a lot of flavor from those barrels, and it actually allows them to not have to age as long as you would in other climates. So with Starward, we have 3 whiskeys we'll be trying today. We have their Twofold, their Nova, and their Solera. Let's all go ahead and get started with the Twofold. Twofold is a 2-grain whiskey made with wheat and malted barley. It's aged for 2 years in a combination of Shiraz, Pinot Noir, and Cabernet barrels. So the first thing of real note to me on the palate here is how soft and round it is. At 40%, so you're talking about 80 proof, it is a little softer than what you'd expect from an American whiskey, but I think that's part of the elegance that is Starward as a brand. Because they are using those wine barrels, you want some softer kind of characteristics, and you're getting that in this whiskey. We are getting some really nice stone fruit there. There's a little bit more dark fruit on the back end, but there's a really nice combination of toasted toffee, a little bit of brown sugar as well. And this all just kind of plays really softly on the palate. This is a really nice introductory whiskey for Starward to have. It shows you the ideas that are going to happen with a single malt coming from them as well. So yeah, just a really nice all-the-way around style whiskey. Again, since it is a softer proof too, at that 40% ABV, a crowd pleaser for a lot of people because it is an easy drinking whiskey. So let's go ahead and move on to the Nova now. The Nova is a double distilled single malt. The malted barley is fermented with brewer's yeast, and the whiskey is aged for 2 years in red wine barrels from the Yarra Valley and the Barossa Valley. So those dark fruit characteristics that were somewhat noticeable on the Twofold come out a lot more expressive in the Nova here. I think that's just more of that single malt making connection with that red wine barrel. The barrel does give you some flavor profile to it as well. You get a lot of those vibrant baking spice notes. There's a little bit more of that charred oak flavor as well, or charred barrel flavor, I should say. And it just brings a little bit more roundness, kind of more of a vibrancy to this. There is some more apple kind of fruit on the finish, but the baking spice is really what lingers on the palate. So I would actually say this is a little bit more drier compared to the Twofold, where the Twofold had a little bit more of those richer flavors, like I was saying, the toffee and the brown sugar, where this has some more dark fruit characteristics, which does bring some richness. Vibrancy of the oak has more influence here, and you definitely get more of those fruity characteristics, but also more of the barrel spice as well. Now let's go ahead and move on to the Solera. The Solera is a single malt, which was fermented with brewer's yeast. It is aged for 3 years in a Para barrels. A Para is a fortified wine made in Australia. And for anybody who is familiar with Spanish wines, you might say, hey, Solera, I know that. That's how they make sherry. And you're correct. So they actually use the same practice here at Starward, where they take old whiskey that they've made, the first batch of Solera, and they keep adding new batches to it. So, and it's an infinite blend, honestly. So you have a little bit of everything in each batch. So in every bottle of Solera, you are actually getting just a little bit of batch 1 too. So batch 1 until the batch they bottled this one with. So it's an infinite style of blending that just allows you to have some balance between old and new whiskey. So this one definitely takes you on a journey. Kind of starts out with a dry cocoa powder profile, and then you get these richer kind of stone fruit flavors in there. Then you get this really vibrant baking spice that is just really linear across the palate and stays for a while. And a really nice caramel apple characteristic that just brings a roundness, a little softness. Baking spice is still vibrant, but it brings out more of the fruit. So that stone fruit that comes out more in the mid palate comes back around on the finish after that caramel apple richness too. So yeah, just a really nice balance of, starting out kind of dry but sweet, getting a little stone fruit, getting dry on the mid palate, and then finishing off with a little bit more roundness on the back end. Yeah, just a really nice kind of roller coaster on the palate. Alright everybody, that's going to wrap up this episode of Sipping with Jeremy. Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something about Starward whiskeys. Just want to give props to David Vittel for what he's doing down there. Australian whiskey is still something that's newer to most of us here in the United States, and these guys are great ambassadors for what Australian whiskey can be and what real craft whiskey is. David, like I said, he focuses on working with local ingredients. He works with these winemakers for their barrels. He works with them for influence on how to blend this stuff as well. So he is working with as many Australians as possible to make his whiskey, and it's great flagship whiskey. These are whiskeys that could be proud to be called Australian, and it's really cool to see them. Hope you all enjoy it. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Drink well.